Welcome to a new episode of Project Purdy. You haven't seen me for a while doing a piece to camera just because things have been really busy. This week we've been doing lots of the little jobs on Purdy that help her to conform to the regulations for Dakar Classic. So let me show you what we've been doing and then I'll come back to you. So Purdy is in the outside in inverted commas workshop today, and we're looking at the mud flaps which we have to have for Dakar. We have to have them behind all 4 driven wheels, but we're looking at the back ones first because that seems to be easier. So we've got the brackets, we've got the mud flap material, which is 5mm special material, whatever it is for mud flaps, and it's red obviously. It looks quite thick inside, but it doesn't look that thick here now. But anyway, that's what we have to have. So we're just looking at how that fits. And then we have to have a chain to hold this up to that kind of height, thereabouts, as per the regulations. So that's today's little job. So we're now looking at the front mud flaps. This is the bracket for those, which goes like that because the outrigger comes up at an angle, which has meant that we've got to cut the mud flaps to fit this. But I think the very sharp corners were a little bit harsh, and on the genuine Land Rover mud flaps, there's one under here, they have rounded off corners, so we're rounding off corners on our red mud flaps as well. It'll all be cool. So just looking at the fitting of the mud flap on the passenger side of Purdy. Luckily where Dan put the exhaust in fits perfectly around this mounting bracket, but we are going to have to cut the mud flap obviously, so because it doesn't want to be touching an exhaust pipe. So Purdy's mud flaps have to be able to be chained up as per the regs. So we need to put some reinforcing in as per these bits of aluminium, which are going to go on either side of the mud flap. And then this little fixing, I don't know what you call that.
Violet.
Don't know, whatever it's called, is going to go through that aluminium, and attached to that will be a piece of chain, which we've got somewhere, which will then go up to the body, not this whole length, we're obviously going to cut that down, to keep the mud flaps in place. And that's important because if we're reversing, we don't want the mud flaps to get caught under the wheel. Standard kit really for a rally car. Just looking at the body end of what the chain is going to fit onto this little stainless steel shackle to hold the whole thing up, and that also means that it's adjustable then if we need to raise or lower the mud flap. So that shackle that you've got is just too big, right?
Yeah.
But the concept is...
Yeah, that goes up to there.
So we found another type of fitting in to replace the shackle, a little carabiner, and all the mud flaps have now got their strengthening bars on and the chains in place, and that should be all we need to do with them. Another job done. And today we've got the rocker cover off Purdy. We're not doing any other work on the engine, but the rocker cover gasket was leaking and this was all mucky. So Chris has taken it off and he's giving it a clean up. We have a replacement gasket from Eurospare, and then we're going to put it all back together again. Just want to make sure this doesn't leak, so we're putting a bit of gasket sealer on as well before the gasket goes on. You remember that we learnt recently when we did Lulu that the gasket goes onto the cover, not onto the head One of the things in our rally regs is that we have to get rid of the Nyman device on the ignition. Now, I had no idea what that was, but what it turns out to be, yeah, is this little thing here. You know when normally you take your key out of the ignition and it stops your steering wheel being able to turn? So what happens normally is this little thing pops up like that and stops the steering wheel being able to turn, but we don't want that in Purdy for the rally, so we have to get rid of it. I'm not quite sure at the moment how we get rid of it, but that's what we need to do. Thanks to the trusty hacksaw, that little thing is now off. No more Nyman lock on Purdy's ignition barrel, so that can be refitted. Another job ticked off the list. So with no key in the ignition, that's now turning freely as the little thing's gone. So we're at the end of another week, and as you've seen, we're getting through our list of little things that we have to do to make Purdy conform. Now we've got a few little things to do, but we've got a couple of big things to do. So the first of those is to change these windows for polycarb ones. Now they are waiting for me in the UK, and Purdy and I will be going to the UK for the Land Rover Owner Show, which is the 6th and 7th of September at Belvoir Castle. So we hope to see you there. The other thing, big thing we have to do, which isn't quite ready for us to do yet, is to change Purdy's suspension. Now we're very lucky that we have a great partner on board for the suspension, and you'll find out more about that later, and that's quite a big job. We have some other exciting news. We have a mechanic for Dakar Classic. He's going to be working with us in the run-up now to Dakar and coming with us on the event, and we'll introduce him in a later video because he's not here right now. You'll notice that I'm wearing a t-shirt that's got Purdy on. Now we've got these t-shirts available so that you can support us and be part of our adventure, and those you can order online at www.purdy.online, and we'd love to see loads of you wearing these t-shirts. So that's it for this week. Somebody might have a birthday next week, so we might have a day off for a change. We've got things to do to prepare for the show next week. Whatever we do, obviously we'll share it with you, so give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we'd really appreciate you doing that. Give us leave us a comment. Whatever you want to do to interact is fantastic, and we'll see you soon.